like to call this meeting of January the 9th, the mayor's birthday, to order. Thank you so much, everyone, for that lovely, the cake and the singing. It really meant a lot. At this time, I'd like to ask you to stand while a friend asks the invocation.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. Father, we just thank you. We praise you, God, for this glorious day. Lord, we thank you for this community. We thank you for the people that live here and work here and play here, Father. We just thank you, and we recognize right now, Father, that so many of our community are under the weather. Lord, we just pray your healing touch upon those. Lord, we thank you for the men and women that serve this great country, and Father, that put themselves in harm's way every day to keep us safe, keep this country free. Lord, that we can come and gather into this place tonight and work in that freedom and do the business of this city and this community. Father, I just pray that you'll give us wisdom, guidance, and direction as we go about the city's business today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Would you please join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Commissioner Barnes is undergoing some surgery and recovery, unable to be here today, so please keep him in your thoughts and prayers as well. Need a motion and a second from the commission for approval to excuse Commissioner Barnes from today's meeting. Thank you.
So move.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Any discussion from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and Commissioner Barnes is excused, and again, wish him speedy recovery. Item number 4 is a public hearing, so at this time I'll state the time of the public hearing. I'm sorry this is echoing. Is it too annoying? Can everyone hear me okay? Thank you. 4:02 Central Time. This public hearing is concerning Resolution 2017-10708, the Wastewater Collection Facilities Plan and the Financial Plan. Mr. White, do you have that resolution available to read, please?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2018-01-708, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, authorizing approval and adoption of the Wastewater Collection Facilities Plan and the Financial Plan for the recommended wastewater collection system improvements.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have questions or concerns which they would like to address to Mr. White concerning this facilities plan? And then after that, I'll give an opportunity for questions or concerns from the public.
I do, Mayor. I guess I'm just looking for a little bit of explanation. I vaguely remember us discussing this back in April or whatever, and I thought it was just something that we were talking about, not that we were going to do this quickly. I mean, what's turned, you know.
It's not necessarily anything quickly.
Okay.
This is part of the overall plan in the City of Lynn Haven, redoing all the roads using surtax money.
Mm-hmm.
This is another funding mechanism. We typically budget around $350,000 to $450,000 a year to upgrade water and wastewater lines.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these areas, it's clay pipes that's been in the ground since 1920, and some of them in the 1960s. They're leaking. They're tied to the stormwater. And being tied to the stormwater, they cost us in operation of our wastewater plant a lot more money. So if you look on some of the data, it shows where we could borrow this low interest money from the state at 1%, and the offset of what we typically pay annually budget would offset the actual cost to go ahead and try to get some of this done. And as we get it done, we use the funding mechanism of the surtax half-cent, and we paved the roads. And with that, you know, we can continue moving on.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm clear. Is this the facility that's down on 5th Street? Does this have anything to do with that?
You talking about the sewer plant?
Yes.
No, ma'am.
Has nothing to do with that.
Nothing with the sewer plant. It's only collection system.
Gotcha.
It's the lines.
Thank you.
Other concerns or questions from the board?
Mayor, I'll just make a comment if I may.
Sure.
And City Manager, I know you and I have talked. I just wanted to point out that I'm very familiar with this program. I understand it's cheap money. But as usual, I just want to make sure that we're paying attention to the debt that the city's taken on.
Yes, sir. you know, this would actually offset, we'd use budgetary dollars instead of budgeting and doing little sections at a time. We'll be able to replace quite a big section, use the surtax money to pave the road and be done with that area. We actually, if we did a lot of this, we would actually be saving money due to the fact that, you know, operating costs with Mark and his guys have to do at the plant, which tremendously go down. We would actually gain capacity in our sewer plant.
Any other concerns or questions from the board? Questions or concerns from the public? Mr. Robitaille?
I'm old. She'll try. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the commission. If I may, Mayor, I'd like to address Mr. White.
Absolutely.
Mr. White, there are those of us who haven't got a clue what you're talking about. There are some of us, I'm one. Have you ever considered making that conversation and the explanation of it available to the public? I mean, like, where can I see this? I mean, is it attached? I mean, how much money are we talking about?
It's on the website, sir.
It's on the website.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. White.
Yes, sir.
And what is it addressed as on the website?
It's in the packet for everything going on today's meeting.
Okay. And this
Mr.
waste-
Robitaille, if I may interrupt for a moment, I'm going to pass this hard copy to Mr. Smithwick, and this is a
That's
copy
very
which
nice.
you
Thank you,
may have.
Mayor.
You may keep for your.
Tell
very
me
own.
about this. The confusion in reading the website, thank you, sir, is that it kind of gets all tangled up with the roads and stuff. You see what I'm saying?
No, sir.
You don't understand?
No, sir.
Well, when I look at it as wastewater control. All right? That's it, a plan just for controlling wastewater. Would you say that's what it is?
No, sir. This is to actually replace deteriorating pipes that's been in the ground since 1920. They have many, many leaks.
I appreciate that, yes.
And some of them, I think, if I'm not bad mistaken, from the 1960s, they clay pipes. They've been broke. There's
I
a
understand that.
lot. So in efforts to replace those, we have to look at funding sources that we can. By today's meeting does not mean that the commission has to accept the money. There's other meetings that we'll have to have. Today is just saying, yes, to see if the state will loan Lynn Haven the money. That's all today is about.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
But you understand where the confusion comes in. You're talking about pipes now, and we're talking about wastewater collection. Mm-hmm. Are you talking about putting in mains?
The mains, yes, sir.
And what size mains would they be, sir?
Means to what, sir?
The water mains, what size?
They vary from street to street.
Well, I guess I'll have to take a harder look at your webpage. Thank
And
you, Mr.
I'll be
White.
glad
Thank
to
you,
sit
Mayor.
down with you and show you.
Yes, perhaps.
Does anyone else from the public have a question or a comment? At this time, there will be no action taken on this item, and so I'm closing the public hearing at 4:09. Thank you. Item number 5, second today's meeting. I'm opening that at 4:09 Central Time. This is the small scale final reading. And I apologize for the sound today. I know that our sound is going to get better. I've been promised that our technology is going to improve, and this is not a slight toward Mr. Ian. It's just about what we have as far as equipment, and we're going to get this taken care of, I do promise. So at this time, I need the ordinance 1048 to be read. Correct, Mr. Jackson?
You can read it now, or you can read it at the.
Let's go ahead and read the ordinance, and then we'll ask Ms. Richard for a report. With your patience, thank you, ma'am.
Ordinance number 1048, an ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163, Florida statutes, of a land use change from low-density residential to mixed use for an approximate 2.9 acres of property located west of Tennessee Avenue within 10th and 11th block in the city of Lynn Haven, Bay County, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
Thank you, and I believe Ms. Richard has a report for us at this time. Thank you.
Yes. This is a small-scale future land use map amendment. This is the public hearing, and today we'll see the final reading and the decision made on this, which will then transmit to the state. If the commission decides to approve this, it will go to the state, and if it's not challenged, within 31 days it becomes effective. So the applicant for this small-scale future land use map amendment is Marina Island, LLC. The agent is Panhandle Engineering, Inc. The address, west of Tennessee Avenue, within 10th to 11th Street blocks. There are a number of parcels involved in this land use map amendment. 08922-001-000, 09758-010-000, 09758-020-000, and 09758-000-000, and would also include the front of way fronting these parcels, plus fronting parcel 09758-000-000 on West 11th Street. And those are the right-of-ways which will be coming up in the next public hearing. They are the right-of-ways which the applicant has asked to be abandoned. The existing land use is low-density residential. The requested land use is mixed use. Existing uses on the site. The site is currently vacant. There is one vacant residential house on one of the parcels. The combined size of the property, approximately 2.9 acres, and adjacent land uses. There is mixed-use land use on the entire north and northeastern boundaries because of the old railway track right-of-way, which already has mixed use. This is an aerial shot which just shows you basically the location. That parcel that you see in the red on the right is one of the parcels. But the reason that I'm pulling this one up is just so you can see where it is in relation to what we all know is the fuel depot property. This shows you the parcels which are involved. So these are the 4 parcels which are involved, plus also the right-of-ways, which I'll show you in a moment. You had this in your packets. It's kind of hard for the public to see this, but it was in the packets and it is online. Those little areas that you can see outlined by blue are the right-of-ways which are being requested to be vacated on the next agenda item. Currently, this is how the mixed use is on the surrounding parcels. So this purple hatch, this kind of mauve purpley hatch color, is mixed use. The yellowy color is low density residential. And this is how it will look if the land use amendment is allowed to go through. So that purple hatch color will also be applied to the existing low density residential land uses. This is a shot which shows you more of the surrounding areas. You can see the fuel depot property, you can see the mixed use land use in pink. The red is commercial, the green is a public institution or where FSU will go. And then you can see that pink coming on down from the island. It goes down to the railroad track, and there's an arrow which highlights where this new mixed use will be located if you decide to approve this land use map amendment.
Are there questions from the board for Ms. Richard?
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Ms. Richard, I just would like to clarify for everyone, including myself, when we change land use to mixed, what are we opening it up for? What's possibilities?
So potentially with mixed use, you can have single family residential, the same as now, low density residential. You could have townhomes. You can have multifamily, which would be apartments. And then you can also have certain types of lower intensity commercial. And in fact, the ideal for a mixed use land use is to have a mix of commercial and residential. If a developer decides to go purely for residential on a mixed-use land use, they can have 10 units per acre. If they go for the true mixed use and have commercial on there as well as the residential, they can have up to 20 units per acre.
And this is approximately 2-something acres.
2.9, almost 3 acres.
They could conceivably put up 20 units if they wanted to.
They can have 20 units per acre if they have commercial on site also. Otherwise, they could have 10 units per acre.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board?
Yes, Mayor, if I may.
Commissioner Friend?
Have we, I know we have signs out there, you know, public notice. Have we had any phone calls, concerns, questions?
We have had not one email, not one phone call.
We have had people at the commission meeting,
Right.
though. I know
At
of-
the planning board meeting,
and-
we had a gentleman and his wife who are sitting here, who came to the planning board meeting, and they did voice their concerns, yes, and they were also here at the first reading, but they didn't actually mention it at the first reading. But other than this lady and gentleman, we've had nobody contact us.
Okay. Well, because I did spend a little time out there talking to some folks, and I don't want my comments to reflect negatively on the marina development. And I understand what we're doing. We're just talking about land use change today. We're not talking about development orders for the future.
That's right.
And just putting mixed use right on Tennessee is, I'm just having I'm struggling with that a little bit. I don't mind telling you. I just don't know that works right there. I mean, it's surrounded by low density residential.
I can, you obviously make the decisions as to what you want, but from a planning perspective, this is a future land use map. The future land use map is supposed to represent what you want to occur in the future. It's not really a current land use. It's not what is there now. So from a planning perspective, if you look at that map and you plan for Lynn Haven's future and what you would like to occur in Lynn Haven over the years, Lynn Haven's going to change. You know, even though we all might like Lynn Haven to stay the same, nothing stays the same. It's going to change. So this is where you basically have control over how you want it to change. Mixed use is already on that railroad track, so it's coming down from the island down to all the other mixed use and commercial. I can tell you that the commercial on Ohio, on Highway 77, is going to spread out west and east. The mixed use is already spreading out west and east, and I can see how, you know, we don't really know what's going to go on that boulevard if it's mixed use. So you could have small businesses, you could have little shops. If you've got rails to trails, you could have somebody put an ice cream store or a soda store. I mean, you could have things develop along that trail. So in a way, it's not as if you're putting it right in the middle of low density residential. It's connected. And that's one of the things when you're looking at whether to allow, and the state will look at whether to allow a land use change or not, it has to be consistent with the surrounding area. If there were no mixed use there at all, then it wouldn't be. But when you look to see what's actually happening there, there's mixed use adjoining the parcels.
Well, Mayor, if I may. I understand the mixed use of the old rail. You know, I mean, I understand why that's mixed use, because it's going to lead into the subdivision or into the development. It's just out there so close. I mean, making that other part mixed use is just, that's where I mean, if it was further back, you know, in the development, because I understand, if I understand that master plan of that development, there's going to be a lot of mixed use out there, which is great on the island. This is just a little concerning because it's just, to me, it's just right in the middle of residential.
And I can understand that, which is why it's brought to you, and you will make the decision as to how you want your city, or, you know, you're representing the people, as to how you would like the city to grow.
Mr. Mike, I have oh, I'm sorry. Would you like to go ahead first, please? Please, go ahead.
If I understand correctly, if they do a true mixed use and have commercial on there, then they could actually have up to 55, 60 units.
Up to 20 units per acre.
Per acre. And there's
Depending on, you know,
2.9 acres.
they'd have to meet setbacks. There's a 30-foot setback from the water and from any wetlands. And then you'd have to look at stormwater. So that's the number that's allowed under the land use, how much they could actually put on there, because there are height restrictions. There's a 50-foot height restriction there.
There is, we do have a height, okay.
Yeah,
That was
50
one of my
foot.
questions I wanted to make sure we had.
50 feet under mixed use.
Has the developer given you any inclination as to what they're wanting to build?
No, and to be honest, as a planner at this stage, I'm not supposed to take any of that into consideration, because what does happen, and it isn't going to happen this time, but I say it isn't, but people ask for a land use change, and they may have an idea in their mind as to what they want to do, but then economic conditions don't make that viable, and so it never happens. So, the state just looks at the land use in the surrounding area.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
The question that I just wanted to put forward, or the concern, I suppose, so if the commission should see fit to go forward today and take action as far as change, as each in the future, as a developer, if the developer we have now, or if there would be a different developer, the commission still would have control over exactly what could be put there, or would there be restraints placed upon the commission because of the fact of the land use change? That's just a kind of a question here.
The land use allows the density and intensity and the types of uses that are allowed with the land use, but they would still have to come to you with a development order, which would have to go through the planning board. And so ultimately that's city controlled. So you would get the final say as to what you were going to allow on there or not. But as far as the density and intensity and the types of use goes, if it's compatible with the land use, then maybe Rob Jackson can help me out here, but if you were to say no to something that was allowed land use wise, just because, let's say it was some kind of retail and retail's allowed in land use but you didn't want it, I'm not sure how that would go with the state. I don't know if there's any recourse on that or not.
Yes, Mayor, if y'all change the land use, then a developer could come in and apply for any, excuse me, any land use, any type of development that's permitted by the land use itself. And then that application would come to the City Commission for approval as a development order. The standard you'd have to use is to see if the application meets the standards in the code. So it's still restricted by what the code says. Whatever, the setbacks, the height restrictions, all those code restrictions, not just what's in the land use, queue. The difference is the standard of review is different at this stage than it is at the second stage. And so this is a fair legislative decision where the commission gets to act as a legislature basically and make kind of policy decisions. The standard is lower if it were challenged, and so it's a fairly debatable standard. And you can't make an arbitrary or capricious decision, but as long as the evidence presented to you and you make a decision that's fairly debatable which way you could go, that's a higher standard to review for, a lower standard to review for a challenge. At the development order stage, the commission really looks at, is the developer applying and using the code and using the standards in the code that you guys have already set. And so as long as he's complying with those standards in the code, then the commission's standard to review is substantial, basically competent substantial evidence. So if they present competent substantial evidence, then the commission should approve it, basically.
Okay, so if I can put it in layman's terms, basically what you're telling me is if we approve the land use change and the state also approves the land use change, then we would pretty much be bound to allow anything to be built there that fell within those guidelines. We wouldn't really have a recourse. Is that
no,
correct?
no,
okay,
no.
good. I was hoping that wasn't what I was understanding.
I didn't want to confuse everybody, but
okay.
that's what lawyers do sometimes, unfortunately. You would be, whatever, right now, anything that was presented is residential now, I believe. And so
Low-density residential.
Low-density residential. So the developer could build anything that's complying with the low-density residential code that the city has already put forward.
Okay.
And so if you all change it to mixed use, they can build anything that complies with the mixed use development. You still have discretion about how that is applied.
Okay.
But your discretion is a little more contained than it would be at this stage of the process. That's basically what I was saying. So they still have to build subject to the code. And so, if for instance, a height restriction. If there's a height restriction of 50 feet, they have to comply with that. If they come in with a building that's 55 feet or 200 feet, the commission can clearly deny that application. But if they meet the standards in the code, and that's yours decision whether their development order meets the standards of the code, then it should be approved at that point.
Thank you. Are there other questions?
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead.
If I may. I just want to note that I really agree with Commissioner Friend on this, because this area is old Lynn Haven. There are so many homes in that area, and I don't live on Tennessee, but I'm real close. I've been to the Marina Island project. I think it's amazing. I think it will do wonderful things, and I'm all for it. But once we come out of that gate on the end of 10th Street, I just can't seem to wrap myself around that, because I think then we're intruding on Old Lynn Haven. Behind the gate, it's on the island, and I'm looking forward to amazing things happening there. But to change it to mixed use, and based on everything our attorney just said, it just sounds like we're getting ourselves into a situation that would be hard to back up from.
Other comments from the board? Comments from the public? Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that presentation.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I hate, with all due respect to Amanda, this slide here, that purple shading is going straight, okay, not that one, the one that was up there.
There we go.
That purple shading is going straight up 77, where of course we're going to find commercial properties. How long do I have to speak?
Please go ahead. It's a public
Thank
hearing.
you. And then the shading that goes this way in purple, of course, most of that is on 390, where of course you're going to see commercial. This is very, very deceptive. That purple there, yes, is 77. And a portion of Florida, which is the next street over, is purple. But then you have New York, Georgia, Alabama, Virginia, all before you're getting to Tennessee. That's a huge amount of property. Here it looks like it's close, and that it should be so contiguous to that mixed use that's already there. It is not close. I applaud Commissioner Tinder and Commissioner Friend for saying that this is a bad, bad idea. I have written down here a speech that I'm going to go off speech because of what these folks have said. Lynn Haven is being sliced and diced in pieces. Some of it is not Lynn Haven Commission's fault. State 390 was not your fault. It's widening to 6. It's encroaching on the neighborhoods around it. On the other side, when 390 goes across 77, it's going to see more residential houses there. You are going to see some development along 389. I read in the paper there where 389 comes to 77, you're getting more turn lanes. Everything is encroaching on the old town. We are being sliced and diced to death. This ordinance and this change to mixed use should not be there. Marina Island Limited purchased the properties. That's why the prior chart showed vacant properties. People were living in there, but then Marina Island came along and purchased them. When they purchased them, they knew what the land use was. So now they come to us and ask us to change it. There's just too much of the citizens of the old town bending over backwards for developers and contractors coming in here and making oodles and oodles of money, and the people in the old town are suffering for the traffic, the noise, the congestion. So I'm hoping that Commissioner Tinder, Commissioner Friend stick to their guns and don't approve this ordinance. It's a very poor solution for that area. It does not belong there. The residents around there don't deserve to have this smack dab right in the middle of their residential homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walker?
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Not continuation with what the young lady said there, but if you look at the map and you get a little history, the land use design for the railway was done by Panama City, Bay County. They said as mixed use. Reason why is Bay Railroad was there. and ran there for many years. It never was changed over when they abandoned it. So therefore, Mr. Friend is 100% correct. One of the things you've got to realize here is LLC and Blue Waters has to get this done. 3 things they have to get done. And it's in your plan. It says it right there. The 3 things that have to be done. Number 1, 390 has to be widened. Why? You can see why. 2, CRA has to be in there. 3, they have to keep the rail. And they own it. We've been informed that they don't own it. It's going to be converted to rails or trails. No, that's not true. Marina LLC owns the rails all the way up to 231. And they're going to hold it because they have to have it for the boulevard that comes out of the fuel depot. Traffic study that was done 5 years ago for FSU, when it was proposed that 40 acres would be there for FSU, was 8,000 cars a day leaving FSU. Where are they going to go out? There's no way out of the fuel depot except 10th Street right now. The only other way they can get is make Marina Boulevard. And in your plan here is Marina Boulevard. And it says, Access Road, Old Fuel Depot, $8.1 million to be used by and supported by, number 1, the developer, the City of Lynn Haven, and TIF. If anybody knows what TIF is, that's the 3rd one I said, CRA. We're going to have to bail them out, give them a road. And they're going to maintain that road, and they have to do it there because if they increase any traffic on 10th Street and create a load service that is unmanageable, they have to rebuild 10th Street, and they don't want to do that. Number 2 in my objective, all that property was purchased by LLC, inclusive of the water, underneath the water. Blue Waters LLC has the only contract grandfathered in the state of Florida that I know of that they can fill in a portion of that bayou. And that's the portion that extends close to their property. So they own everything there. So they're asking for a land use. It is not compatible. Let's exclude the railway. Let's exclude the railway. All the other area there is low-density residential. Part of the area is wetlands. Very little of it is uplands. And you will see later on in one of your public meetings, they're going to ask for an abandonment of the roadways that go down there. Why are we going to do that? That's another subject to be addressed later. This is not a well thought out plan by the city. You've got to take a look at this. As the young lady said, you're dicing, cutting, and creating something that you might not have control of. Yes, you will have the development order. It's too late. It's too late. You've already decided on mixed use. Once you decide on mixed use, you can't go back. And they can put it there. And believe me, they will. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments or questions? Mr. Robitaille?
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker brought it out. What's going on here? I'm with Commissioner Tinder and a friend. What does low density mean to you? You know what it means to me? Neighborhood, kids in the street, playground, somebody living there generation after generation. What does mixed use mean? Well, let's ask the fine friends of the Kelly administration. I was here when 77 was 77. When he left, it's Hamburger Row. That's what mixed use is, folks. It's Hamburger Row. Why mixed use? For what? Where is Catamount Engineering? Are you here tonight?
Pardon me, I didn't hear what you said, Mr. Robitaille.
Okay, well, I want to know what we're going to get out of it. What is it that me over there, and I'm going to get out of it. I go to Tennessee all the time. What am I going to get out of that? Not a damn thing. Who's going to get something out of it? Boys of Panhandle Engineering, the boys. You see what has happened here is we got all kinds of crazy about this fuel depot. And all of a sudden the boys started sliding, taking advantage of them old folks, taking advantage of them dumb suckers sitting up there. Take advantage. Look at this. Do you know how much property that is? Why do they want that if all they're going to build is a nice little marina for us? Come on. Come on. This is a pig in a poke and you know it. I wouldn't even get close to this. If you can't see what they're doing to us, now let's go a little farther, just one step farther and I'll shut up. What I've found recently, thanks to the mayor and a few others, is this atmosphere. I like the atmosphere now. I came here tonight, kids playing on that playground over there. It's nice. Went down to the beach our beach, the other day, children in the water. Crab races, all right? Crab races, can you imagine? We got a mayor that rides around on a scooter. This is a nice town. We haven't got much left of it, of course, because of Hamburger Row, and every time a developer turns around, mixed use. I want apartments here and I want McDonald's there. Come on. We're talking about neighborhoods here. We're talking about... No. You vote for the next use, you don't have my vote next time, I'll tell you that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robitaille. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak? Yes, Mrs. Cutchins.
I will just say that information was shared at the Planning Commission meeting that we attended that the plan is to build condos there. So, you know, it's not a question of if or what. Apparently that's what it will be.
Thank you, Mrs. Cutchins. Anyone else have a question? Yes.
Mayor, commissioners, neighbors. I'm Andrew Bayless. I'm the developer of Marina Island. I'm the principal. I think in the past you guys have seen other people, Chris Hine or Don Jackson. We are the finance and the principal owners and so forth of the development. You know, I tell you, I've seen this kind of passion since like I was growing up. You know, I grew up in an Orthodox religious family, so you know we'd have debate and so forth. And I think, you know, Kolokobot, if it was my neighborhood, I'd be the same way, exactly the same way. And it is my neighborhood. You know, we've invested substantially to take down the island since we've taken down the island August 23rd, which was the only other time I've actually been in this fine room. We invested about, I don't know, $1.5 million just in studies and research and traffic studies to see that we weren't, you know, going to bring lots of vehicles down a street where there's an elementary school. We've also, you know, been very interested in our neighbors, you know, that they're not going to be looking at a cement wall. In fact, I'm an architect by education, and I still dabble in it a little, although my colleagues wish probably I didn't sometimes. But, you know, I made the buildings all individual small buildings instead of a wall like I live in Panama City Beach right now. And you can't see the beach because there's this wall after wall after wall of buildings. That's not what we're about. What we want to do, and I understand it's not our obligation to discuss it, but I've been very inclusive. I've mentioned at the closing back in August 23rd, we had the closing here in this room when, you know, we had the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force here, and Congressman Dunn and the mayor and many of the commissioners were there, and that we want to have an inclusive, not an exclusive community. We weren't having a gated community. We want to build amenities in the community that not only, you know, the people that move into our project at Marina Island, but also that the community can do. And it works for us. It works for you know, it's a mutually beneficial way to do a development. And I think most progressive developers these days are doing that sort of thing. The other thing, we've spent over $100,000 just to identify in Lynn Haven Bayou, because it doesn't flush properly, and there's all sorts of issues. We spent money on things that I wrote them down because I mean, half of them I don't know the term, but bathymetric studies, identifying flora and fauna. We had somebody snorkeling, I guess, all over the island to make sure that we didn't encroach on any of the emerging wetlands and things like that. A hydrodynamics modeling of the whole island so that we can see how we can increase the flushing in Lynn Haven Bayou. And as a secondary benefit of that, we've actually found a way that we can help anybody that's living on Lynn Haven Bayou or any of the connecting little inlets there to access the bay by boat. Now, I mean, I went out there once with a fellow that I don't have a boat, but I went out with a fellow that had a boat, and I had to do the limbo going under that second bridge. It's under, what's this? Connecticut, yeah, the Connecticut. Sally Mae, I can actually stand up, but it's close. It gives me a little haircut every time I go in there. But this would allow people to access from the bay. But our intention is not to go in there and build a high-rise. You know, it's not to go in there and build a cement wall across there. We're going to have, you know, some walkways and so forth that'll be publicly accessed, so people will be able to get down to the water in a way that's safe and also aesthetically pleasing. I think the other thing is somebody made a comment, I don't remember who, about filling in the canal. We actually are looking at getting a dredging permit because there's a natural land bridge. When the Air Force created that causeway, they actually blocked off the natural flow of the water, and so changed the biology of that whole area right there. And when they did it, they actually took and scooped land that was upland and put it over on the island. They didn't truck land in. They just took a piece. You can see it over here on the left-hand side, the yellow piece right in the middle. That piece right there, and then on the opposite side of Lynn Haven Bayou, there was another piece, and they scooped it up, which I think one of the two we actually have deed to, but we're not filling it. One we can't touch because it's got emerging wetlands in it. The other one will probably clear so that we can get better flushing in the area. So our intent is not to make some Disneyland / Las Vegas over there. We want to build a beautiful neighborhood. We like Lynn Haven. We could build anywhere in the country. You know, we have a very, very large budget for this project. We hope it allows Lynn Haven to prosper from that ad valorem, that TIF money, and everything else, so that the community can use some of that, you know, for some of that extra ad valorem to do other projects in the city. You know, I noticed the first thing on the agenda was a substantial loan to fix, you know, sewers. It'd be great if you had. Right now, that has generated no money for the city because it was owned by the Air Force. Now, at least we've paid for it. We're paying ad valorem taxes on it, and hopefully, if we get this change, this mixed-use change, you know, there'll be more ad valorem. And we want to show, one of the reasons why we wanted to do this project is we wanted to show the city, because there was a lot of naysayers out there, that we were serious about what we were doing. We're not here to kick tires. We're here to build this out, do a great job, do a world-class, you know, public-friendly development. I had a conversation with the city manager, I don't know, a week ago, and he asked me, he said, do you mind if we use the boat dock out there for fireworks? And I said, heck, yeah, we want you to use the boat dock out there. He said, well, how much you charge me? I said, I'm not going to charge you anything for using it. I said, you can park they have a fireboat or something. We want to be, you know, actively good members of this community. We don't want to be the you know, I don't want to come up here and feel, you know, like I'm the guy that's, you know, bringing hellfire and brimstone to Lynn Haven. I want to be the one that's bringing, you know, good things to Lynn Haven. Good, you know, I want to be up here telling you about the splash pad that we're building over there. You know, I want to tell you about the parks that we're building and the conservation areas that we're building and so forth. And I think that adds to it. And just going back to the slide where you've got the pink and so forth on there, the reason there's one before that, I think, yeah. The reason there's pink over there, am I allowed to walk over there? Okay. You guys may want this on me in a minute. But we're actually giving that to Lynn Haven. So we're not trying, and I completely understand everybody's concern. And if you don't know, if you're not in those inside meetings and everything, which we hope we can make that an outside meeting. We're going to have a development agreement that we hope to have done maybe this week. So then we can start publicly promoting what we're going to do over there and so forth. But I think everybody's going to say it's good. It's not only good for Lynn Haven, but they're excited about it coming in. They're excited about using it. And on the island itself, we'll have restaurants. We're not going to have a McDonald's out there unless it's kosher. But and I don't think McDonald's does that. But we are going to have a small sales center there for the island. Okay, but it's a 1,500 square foot building. It's not a 15,000 square foot building. So, I mean, that's about the extent of the commercial that's on it. And the rest will be very, very tastefully done, you know, $400,000 plus condos. And they're very, very well amenitized. It will bring property values up tremendously. It will also be not an eyesore. It's a beautiful building. It very much fits the local styles of, you know, the tin roofs and, you know, wooden siding and things like that, using Ife on the decks and things. So I think it'll be lovely, and it won't block your view either, because I looked at where your property is located. Excuse me. Yeah, it's
It's okay. It's a public hearing. I know that's a little out of order to ask a question, but I want this to be an open discussion, so please go ahead.
Well, two reasons. One is obviously financially, it's more financially viable to do what we're doing, but we're not doing high-rise buildings. Okay, we're doing four flats, eight flats in a building, eight apartments in a building. Sorry, Amanda was the only one who understood me. But so there are eight units in a building. They're very, very tastefully done. I don't think it's going to be an eyesore at all. I think it'll be a beautiful thing, and we're really going way out of our way to conserve all those beautiful trees, like all the trees that go up Tennessee and down 10th Street right there. I think that those trees are all saved. There's a few on the site we're unfortunately having to cut, but we'll mitigate or do whatever we need to do to save those. I'm a huge fan of nature. I mean, I love seeing, you know, I lived in Carmel, California. I lived in Monterey, but we used to go to Carmel all the time. You'd see the road go down, and all of a sudden it would do this around a tree, and you know, it's nice. I mean, you can't build that, you know. So I hope the commission recognizes the sincerity of what, you know, I'm trying to bring forth. I'm not a little guy. I'm actually 60% of the company that owns Marina Island. So I am the decision maker. I'm not, you know, I don't have to take this back to a board or anything like that, but I can assure you, everyone, that it's our intent to do something good for Lynn Haven and do something good for the community. And I hope we have your votes tonight and on both this item and the abandonment. And by the way, Mr. Walker, the reason for the abandonment right there of that is by, and Rob, you can correct me if I say something wrong here, but by right, if the city isn't going to build a road there and they are going to abandon it, they will give 50% to the residents on one side and 50% to the other side, which you probably already know that anyway. So That's why
Thank you, Mr. Bells. Does anyone else have a question for Mr. Bells? Do you mind answering the questions?
all.
Okay,
Not
thank
at
you.
all.
Ms.
If I can.
Harris? Okay.
Do you want me to start from the beginning, or? Okay, will do. Thank you.
And you can just pick that up and hold it, and I appreciate that very much. Who else had Mr. Robitaille, you had a question? Please go ahead.
Yes. This fine gentleman here came to town, spent millions of dollars, right? Millions.
Yeah.
Millions. Bought up the whole town. Millions of dollars. You don't do that unless you know it's hard time. You don't come to a little town like Lynn and spend millions of dollars. You don't do that. And I have a strong objection to conversations you have with Mr. White that are not public. I would appreciate that you keep all conversations before the people. I don't believe this. I don't believe this 1 minute. Nobody comes to town and spends millions of dollars unless they know it's a gimme. Unless they know it's a gimme. Nobody does that. Nobody spends that kind of money.
Your comment is noted, Mr. Robitaille. Does anyone else have a? Yes, go
I
ahead,
have a question,
Commissioner
if I
Tender
may.
has a question for you.
Not that I doubt for a minute Richard Walker's information, but I really want to hear it from you.
Sure.
Does your firm or your company,
Yeah.
do you really own the railroad all the way from there to 231?
Yes.
Wow. And 100 feet on
100
either
feet
side.
wide. Yes, that's right.
Was that done first? Did you purchase
we
that
bought it
before you
with-
purchased the island?
It came together. It was a
It came
package
together.
deal.
It's parcel
Yeah.
C. It's parcel C of Fuel Depot.
And we actually have a agreement with the city that we'll give that to the city. We also have an agreement. We also have an agreement with the city that we are giving that parcel to the city in 2 years and a day. So
To Lynn Haven?
To
and
Lynn Haven,
Panama
yeah.
City and whoever,
No,
whatever
it's
city.
all to
Lynn
Lynn
Haven.
Haven.
To Lynn Haven.
It's Lynn Haven.
Oh, so we'll own it all the way to
Yeah,
231?
Lynn Haven will go from 231 to 2.
It's all part of the purchase agreement that we did when they purchased it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For those who may not be familiar with the Fuel Depot purchase, the Fuel Depot, the Rails to Trails section in all of the documents as parcel C. So if you want to look, that's parcel C in all that property acquisition. Who else had a question or comment? Yes, ma'am, Mrs. Cutchins.
No, actually, we keep from 390 to the island, and that's what we intend to build a road that will, it'll be a 2-lane road from there to the island to offset some of the traffic that might otherwise go through, I guess, 10th Street, 14th, et cetera. So. Well, I mean, as of right now, we've got it on our budget, but we're hoping, because of the size of the investment that we plan to put on the island, we intend to keep a large portion of the island and the commercial and things like that we plan to put on there. So, and some other areas on the island. So we would like to, say that we'll be members of the community for a long time. We'll see on the road, but right now we're budgeted to pay for it.
Are there other questions or comments for Mr. Bales? Ms. Walker.
The property, so the question was the property decontaminated? The answer in simple terms is yes. So there are certain restrictions that they put on certain parts of it, but they're fairly benign restrictions. They have to do with soil content. It has some slightly elevated level of arsenic, is that right? Yeah, yeah. So arsenic is, yeah, and it's probably, you know, from the railroad ties. It could be from weed killer or something like that that they used back in the day or whatever. And there is a way to mitigate that as well. So we're evaluating which way we want to go. You can scrape it off and remove it, or you can bury it, and we'll probably end up burying it because we want to elevate the site a bit, just because of the recent weather situations and stuff. We'd rather have all our stuff higher in the
Thank you.
flood.
Did that answer your question? Are there other questions from the public? Just for your information, our city manager has received an emergency phone call. That's why he left the meeting. He didn't just get up and leave. So.
I do
Yes.
have one more question.
No problem.
I was once told when I toured the island that 10th Street was not going to be the only entrance or exit, that you were going to also have an exit and entrance out the other side completely out there where the old Sally Mae used to be. Is that still in the works?
I couldn't yet comment on that because we have not settled on a master plan. We are considering all options to make sure that the traffic flow fits with the surrounding neighborhoods and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best scenarios is this Marina Island Boulevard, because it really, if you look at the property that's in discussion today, the 4 parcels or whatever, those properties are really sort of segregated from everything else there around there. So we feel that that solution of Marina Island Boulevard would be the main one, because it would keep everything kind of outside of 10th Street, where you've got a elementary school over there, and you've got other things, and that's really what we want to try to do. So, and of course it is accessible now today by 2 other roads coming in. I think it's Missouri. Is that right? No. On the other part of on the southern side. Maryland and Connecticut. Yeah.
Okay.
Was there another question from the?
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, Commissioner. Were you finished?
Okay, I'm finished. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Well, I think whenever you have a noteworthy project going in, property values increase in the tangent properties. So, I mean, it's historical. There's hundreds of thousands of examples of it everywhere. You take, for instance, in Panama City Beach, they have Pier Park. Well, all the neighborhoods that are around there are getting a higher price than, let's say, if you go another half a mile north of there. So your property values will go up. When we have a product that is, if you're selling your house, for instance, and we have an apartment that's selling at $400,000 or a house that's selling at $1 million, then that's going to be one of the comp that your realtor will pull up for the appraisal of your house. So everything will go up. That's at least historically, that's how it's been everywhere.
Does anyone else have a comment or question? Commissioner Russell?
It's not that I'm saying I am for or against this at the moment, but the county does have a couple examples of this situation as it stands now. Holiday Golf Course out on the beach has a 6-story condo with houses across the street from it. You got the Cove condo in the Cove that has houses across the street from it as well. So it's not that this is an unusual situation. There's other places in the county that already have this situation. I mean, just food for thought.
Okay.
Of course, we're not going that high, 6 stories.
Well, yeah, but the principle being is that you've got a high-rise building or a low-rise building next to residential there, as well as a Holiday Golf Course. You know, that condo's been there since I was a kid. And of course, I lived in Holiday Golf Course when I was a kid. So, I mean, there were houses next door to those condos as well.
And I, go ahead, Mrs. Cutchins.
No.
I wouldn't live on the beach for anything.
I
I
wouldn't.
love Lynn Haven, and I would have moved here a long time ago.
And I want to once again just reiterate that I have deviated from Robert's Rules of Order in this hearing. Discourse. A great deal of respectful discourse taking place, and if no one is offended, I would like to continue with this. I think it's productive. So is there anyone else who would like to ask a question? Yes, ma'am, Mrs. Wick.
You're welcome.
Mrs.
It's our
Koff
pleasure.
is a former Lynn Haven commissioner, and she's been very instrumental in pushing forward the Rails to Trails concept from the beginning. Anyone else? Mr. Robitaille, did you have another question or comment? Sure, sure.
That's not what I'm saying. So let me explain. On this property right here, we have condominiums that, although we haven't set the exact price, but they're going to be in the $400,000 range. That's what the comps in the area, condominiums, yes. On the causeway and other parts of the property, we'll have houses over $1 million in that area. So, in fact, what you're asking is yes, but not on that particular parcel. I think so. I hope so. Well, I can bring you some numbers if you want. Okay. We have both local interest, and we also have people that like to retire and they like to come to Florida or come to this area. I mean, as you know, the area here, the Panhandle has about 10, 11 million people from Birmingham, from Atlanta, from et cetera, that come down here to vacation, and people like to retire where they vacation. We'll sell him $1 million house if he comes down. What do you? I don't understand your question though. I don't know I don't know the term. Okay. Well, they also get the ad valorem on that every year. Is that correct? The tax on that property, which is zero today, when we build $1 million house on it, assuming it assesses for something, yeah. I think there's more than that, but yes, I think it's going to help as well.
Are there other questions from Mr. Bales? Mr. Bales, thank you for Mr. Walker. Yeah. Pardon me?
We've gotten away from the track.
Well, my intent is, since the developer was,
Right,
so kind as to answer the questions, was to let everyone here answer, ask a question. Did you have one for Mr. Bales, or?
It's not a question, it's just that this has been tried before.
Mr. Walker, any question or make any comment that you wish about during the public hearing.
Right.
Go ahead.
What we've had now, what we've had is the same fluff we had when they first developed the marina and what they told us.
Which
Okay,
marina are we
that-
talking about now? Which marina are you talking about?
We're talking about the original fuel depot marina, but this is not the subject that we were on. We're on a land use change.
I understand.
That's where we should
But,
be.
okay, Mr. Walker, I deviated from the Robert's
okay.
Rules of Order to give everyone an opportunity to gain information. But we are still talking about the land use change because there are many people here who don't understand the entire concept of what's about to be built at the fuel depot. And so without the entire audience and community having that conceptual understanding, then they're not able to understand there might be benefits or there might be a detrimental effect of the land use change. I want everyone to be fully informed as possible. So while it may seem we've deviated from the topic, I think we're still very much on the topic. So, thank you.
I'm satisfied with that.
Okay.
My question, and I'll phrase it as best I can, is you mentioned the fact that, and it's been brought to the fact, that the piece of property that we're discussing is going to be condos. There's a lot of ifs here. If they give us the railway, if they get the
Okay, that's incorrect
advantage.
because the railway is part of this agreement, Mr. Walker. That's a done. It's part of this agreement. And is
we just were told that they own it.
no, they own it because it's part of the fuel depot.
right.
But part of the agreement is that they give it to Lynn Haven, which they have done. The only portion of that property, and please correct me, Mr. Attorney, the only portion of that property that will not be within our complete grasp and is that little area leading into the fuel depot, and that will also be part of Rails to Trails. It will just be that it's moving into their property so that the people who live in Lynn Haven will have access to that fuel depot property. He's made a point of saying that it will be a public community, not a private community. I'm not saying that I am for the land use change. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just trying to make sure that everybody understands what's on the table. I've not taken a position either way in this meeting. I've tried to be neutral here. Okay, would you please continue? No, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Thank you. My question back to this. It was mentioned, the fact that condos would be put there. I was there at the meeting, okay? That is what we're looking at, okay? This has been tried before by Panhandle Engineering, and it's been unsuccessful. I'm just using an example of what's going to go there, possibly, as to what has gone in the past. You presently have a piece of property that we've kicked down the street for 10 years, which we're going to be addressing later. And it was started out to be a high-rise, okay?
What was, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
I'm not saying you.
You've lost me with which piece of property we're talking about.
I'm using an example.
Yeah. Okay,
I'm
let's
using the seafood property over there, okay?
all right, well, let's
As
stay
an
with fuel
example.
depot if we may.
Because it was mentioned in the conversation and backed up that condos would go in this piece of property here. I'm just setting an example of what has been done before,
Duly noted.
okay? That example was the high-rise to start with, went to, then changed to mixed use down to condos, okay? Then, because the developer could not make enough money with that, they're changing it back to low-density residential. This has been tried before. I'm saying this, you've got a lot of ifs here. Them ifs have to come true. We will never find out if they come true, but they have to come true. Got to take people for their value and what their worth is.
Comments are duly noted by myself and I'm sure the rest of the commission. Anyone else have a comment or a question about the fuel depot property before I close the public hearing? Mr. Bales, thank you for your...
Thank you very much, Mayor and Commissioners.
Okay. We're still on item number 5. At this time, at 5:10, I'm closing this public hearing. Returning to Robert's Rules of Order. And thank you for your patience in that very, I think, great discussion that we were able to have here. Item number 6 is the public hearing and Again, I'll state the time, 5:10 Central Time. It is open. This is for the vacation and abandonment for 2 right-of-ways, Kentucky Avenue and 11th Street west of Tennessee Avenue. Transmittal Ordinance 1049. This is a final reading. Do you have that ordinance ready for reading, Mr. White?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 1049, an ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, providing for the vacation and abandonment of certain portions of 2 right-of-ways. Number 1, the Kentucky Avenue right-of-way south of the 100-foot railroad right-of-way, and number 2, the 11th Street right-of-way west of Tennessee Avenue, as both are more particularly described herein, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing for an immediately effective date.
Thank you. Ms. Richard, who is our city planner, has a report for us, if you would direct your attention to the board.
This is a right-of-way abandonment request. The applicant is Marina Island LLC. Agent Panhandle Engineering, but as you know, we have Andy Bales with us tonight. He's just spoken with you, so he's the owner applicant. The location, there's 2 right-of-ways locations. The Kentucky Avenue right-of-way, fronting parcels 08922-001-000, 09758-010-000, 09758-020-000, and 09758-000-000. And then the West 11th Street right-of-way, fronting parcel number 09758-000-000. The applicant owns all the parcels abounding and abutting the proposed vacations and is planning to develop a multifamily residential project on those parcels if the land use change is voted on by the commission to go ahead on the combined properties. And the city has no infrastructure located in either of the right-of-ways. Therefore, the applicant is requesting the city abandon them so that that land can be incorporated into their project. And this is a shot which you saw earlier. It was early in the packet, which shows the locations of the 2 right-of-ways.
Thank you. I was asking for a temperature change in the room. It looks like people are freezing all over the room. Does anyone on the commission have a question for Ms. Richard?
Yes, Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Just to clarify, regardless of the land use change, I think you already stated it, but just for clarity, we don't have any infrastructure on these 2 right-of-ways, so regardless of the land use change that may or may not happen in the future, if we just abandon it, then it just allows them to develop that property.
To use it, yes. We've got nothing in there, and we've got no plans to have anything in there, and the developer isn't planning on needing any water or utilities or anything to run through there.
Great. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions from the board? Are there questions from the public regarding this abandonment? Mr. Walker?
Once again, Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan. Once again, you get they need this to develop their area, okay? So you're going to abandon it. This answered a question I had. Who are we abandoning it to? We're abandoning it to the developer, okay? You notice the one coming down there, it comes from the railway down, and it goes almost down to the waterfront. You give that to them, and then the citizens can't go down to the waterfront. And I think one of the avenues that we need is that bayou to have citizens of this town be able to use it, be able to maybe we want to put a fishing booth out there or something. I don't know, but it seems that we're bending over backwards again to help the developer. We're giving him free land where he already owns most of it already, and you're denying the public from getting into that area, which belonged to the public.
Mr. Robitaille.
I'm here to beat the old dog again. I live over there in New Hampshire. We need sewers over there, by the way. I am almost insulted by this. These folks really think we're dumb. First they come in, they buy up half the town. Then they say, well, you got your road on our land. It's a road off our land. We don't want no road on our land. And I want you to prove it. Come on. Did I tell you about a pig and a poke here, folks? Did I tell you about the boys coming when they knew it was a gimme?
Thank you, Mr. Robitaille. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Mr. Bales.
About access to the waterfront. First, we own all the land around it, so you would have to go across private property to get to it, which, you know, I mean, we do have certain rights in that, but at the same time, we are also giving 4 miles of 100-foot wide strip. This is, I don't think this is 100 feet, I think this is 60 feet. In exchange, well, not in exchange, but I mean, we're giving 4 miles of 100-foot wide that cross 77, both sides of 77, the other side of 390, 231, East Avenue. What am I missing? There's basically everything between 390 and 231, every major intersection, belongs to the city. That's very valuable property. So we are, it isn't that the city's doing special favors for a developer. I think this is the same if an individual homeowner owned the land on both sides. I mean, that's not that your point is not very valid, but I just wanted you to know that, you know, we're giving that piece of land as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White has a comment you'd like to make?
Yeah, I'd like to add, as far as abandonment, just so everybody know, this is something that is commonly done in the city. We've done it numerous times. We've done it several times, I think last year, and CVS, that was the latest one we abandoned. So this, they're not really asking commission for anything other than what most other developments would ask in this particular case.
Thank you. Commissioner Russell.
And I'm going to say this and ask the city attorney to correct me if I'm incorrect, but if we do abandon it, the state requires us to abandon it to the adjacent property owners. We can't give it to anybody that we want to. The state says if we abandon the property, it has to be divided between the adjacent property owners. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We don't technically own that property. It was dedicated to us for the specific purpose of having a road. And if the city's not going to use it as a road, then if we abandon it and abandon that purpose, it goes back to, by law, to the adjacent property owners.
Thank you.
Are there other comments or concerns? At this time, I will close this public hearing at 5:18. These items will all be addressed again when we get to the agenda items 13, 14, and 17, if you want to note that on your agendas. Is everyone hearing me okay? I know the sound has been, okay, perfect. Item number 7 is the mayor's report, and I just had a few things that I wanted to bring up. We established through a workshop recently a new traffic policy when people request changes with stop signs or they're having speeding issues, excuse me, or other issues in their neighborhoods, that they would be able to present these concerns to the commission. And then our staff has a board which will do a traffic study and look for a solution to the problems. So I've had 2 requests this week from citizens, and I just wanted to publicly bring those requests forward for these citizens who were not able to be here this evening, and ask that staff consider these locations. One is Florida and 8th Avenue. Florida Avenue and 8th Avenue. I had a request that we consider making that a 4-way stop. That if you are familiar, that's there by the tag office, the annex from the county. There's a great deal of traffic there, and there's been some concern that there could be an accident there without having a 4-way stop. So that was voiced by Mr. Kaiser. And then I had another request from the resident who lives at the corner of Missouri Avenue and 5th Street, 401. And they're asking for another stop sign. They were very complimentary of the one that was placed at 5th Street and Georgia, correct, yes. And his concern is that there's an unpaved section of the park that's adjacent to the beach, and we have teenagers apparently in trucks who are going down there and doing the donuts and the sliding around in the dirt and seeing how fast they can go and then going right back up the street. And this particular intersection has small children playing at every home, and they're very concerned and would like to see a study done there and a stop sign. So I wanted to bring those forward. Next, we have been reestablishing our Lynn Haven Leisure Services Board, which will now be called the Community Services Board because Leisure Services Department is changing their title, and then also the Beautification Board. We do have enough members now on the Beautification Board to have a viable board that can meet, and they will be meeting on the third Monday of every month, and that would begin this month. And so our city administrative staff will be calling those people to meet at the library as they did back in 2006. So I'm very excited that that's going to be reestablished. And then our Community Service Board, which represents leisure services. I've had some calls about Christmas decorations and other things within the city which could be improved. And so hopefully if you haven't applied for a board and would like to serve, the Community Services Board would be a place where you could serve. And we're tentatively hoping that that board will meet for the first time in February if we have more than the one member that has applied. So hopefully we'll get some more community interest, and that's why I'm bringing it up. I have asked city staff to consider or I've asked them actually to at least we would make a proclamation in February on behalf of a request made to me by our good friend Mr. Leon Miller. He was hoping that the city of Lynn Haven would consider a proclamation for Black History Month, which is February, because our city has many families in Lynn Haven who were essential in the founding of our city and who have made great strides for this community and made great contributions. And so we're going to proclaim February as Black History Month in Lynn Haven, and then staff is working, and I'm also helping with this we're going to come up with a reception or some type of a memoriam type meeting where we'll recognize these people who have contributed in such a great way to our community, and perhaps have historical exhibits here at the chamber. So we haven't finalized that, but please be listening for that. That'll be coming up in February, and we're all very excited about that. Next, there are 2 meetings coming up that I'm going to be attending, and I would love to have your presence with me if any of you are interested. I'm going to be attending the airport board meeting this month, which meets on the 24th. And if you've been following my social media, I'm very concerned over the fact that we don't offer affordable direct flights out of our airport. And many years ago, if you were here, we were told that if we relocated this airport from where it was, right here close to Lynn Haven, that we would have this large variety of flights, and we would have much more access to direct flights. And not being critical of our airport board, but I would certainly like to become more involved as a leader here of Lynn Haven, to find out if there are other avenues we could pursue, or maybe there are some ideas that have not been looked at in the past. And for one thing, it is established, as many of you know, by the legislature, and it was established in the 1940s, called the Panama City Airport Board. Well, it's not even in Panama City anymore, so there's one change right there. Lynn Haven has no representation on the airport board, and we're the second largest city in Bay County. So I do think there are some concerns that we should have as the second largest municipality in Bay County, and I hope that some of you might consider attending that meeting with me. And I don't plan to say anything or do anything other than just listen. I want to learn more and see what we could do to help to improve that situation. Also on the 29th of this month, the Triumph Board will meet in Apalachicola, and I do plan to attend that meeting. Lynn Haven had 2 extremely viable projects which we presented to the County Commission, and we were not recommended. Mexico Beach is another municipality who had a project which was not recommended, and the Triumph state statute that was provided for how these would be selected plainly stated that municipalities' projects should be considered. So there is some gray area as to whether these projects from Lynn Haven should have received priority as far as being recommended. But one thing is for sure, without the county's recommendation, we probably don't have the same advantage as some of the private entities and some of the other projects that were recommended. So I do plan to attend that, and if any of you would like to attend as well, to hear, what is happening with that. I think it's very, very important that we be heard as these funds are distributed. Municipalities should not be pushed aside by the county in favor of private enterprise, in this mayor's opinion. And then on the 30th and 31st of this month, I will be attending the legislative session in Tallahassee with the League of Cities. I'll be visiting all of our representatives there, and I will be talking with them about several issues, and the Triumph funding is one of them, but I will also be talking with them about my concerns about the airport, and I will also be talking to them about my concerns of the importance of municipalities and home rule, and the respect given to them by other branches of the government. So those are my concerns, and that completes my report. And so I would now ask Commissioner Russell if he has a report.
In the effort to make this meeting go faster, because we've already drug out an hour and a half.
Now, Commissioner Russell, we didn't drag it out. We had important business to attend to.
And I shouldn't have said drag out. You're exactly correct.
I meant that in jest. Continue.
I've been in conversation with several city residents about issues that they've had, and me and the city manager are working through them. One of the biggest ones that I haven't addressed with the city manager yet is a safety issue with a ditch next to Publix. I've noticed kids walking from that little subdivision back there to Publix and almost getting hit by cars. So I want to talk to him about possibly building a bridge or walkway over that ditch to keep the kids out of the road. And other than that, I have to say the city manager has corrected anything I've brought to him so far, so I'm still stating that I'm happy with his job so far. That's all I've got, Mayor. Thank you. Oh, and I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Tender?
Yes. I'd first like to say I feel like it's been forever since we've been here. It's been about a month, I think. I've had a few different issues that I've addressed recently. One being the Suggs home down on 77. You notice they've actually lifted that home. That home was built in 1911, and it's been owned by the Suggs family since 1940, about 1940, somewhere in that area. And rather than lose their home, they have gone to the expense of raising the home, and they're going to move it on their own property, just back so that they're within the property, limits to where they can keep the home in the family. And I'm very excited for them. If you've noticed, it's only moving a few feet every week because the home is so old. They're just nursing it along, trying to get it to the right and back a little bit. But I hope that's very successful for them because it's really important to them. One of the other things that I have checked into, I had a gentleman call over on Redbird Circle, and it was in regards to Rails to Trails. He wanted to know about the culvert behind him. He's very nervous, and after talking to the city manager and everything, I assured him that that was a long ways off, but I'm sure that it'll be handled correctly when we do get to that point. He has, on the railroad track, it's a good 20 feet higher than the block below, and he's worried that if we fill in that ditch, they might as well they'll be underwater. But I think he'll be fine. And another situation that's come to my attention, and this is something that's come to my attention on more than one occasion. Down on Missouri Avenue, we have a dog owner. The dogs have been picked up repeatedly. The mother dog, if you will, was finally picked up, and somebody else adopted that dog. I had a resident come to me just 3 days ago, very upset. That mother gave birth to puppies that are in the backyard and literally killing each other, attacking and killing each other. And when she called us to have something done, somebody had come to stop it, she was told that there's no law against that. So the neighbor videotaped the dogs killing each other and then watched somebody bury them. And I know those people are here tonight. I know they want to speak in public commentary. And I really hope that we can do something to correct this situation. It's gone on for months and months, and they're afraid for the children in the neighborhood. They're afraid for their own dogs. That now these dogs are getting so vicious. And oh, the other one I had a resident from the country club come into the restaurant, and he said, I have a real problem. He said, somebody's going to get killed in the country club. The speeding, you know, and I've heard this more than once. So I did contact the city manager and asked if we're giving out tickets in the country club for speeding. And he assured me that there have been 6 given out. I don't know how in the last length of time. But our presence is there, but we're actually doing something. So I hope we keep that up, because people are afraid to walk out there. So, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very disturbing about the dog situation. We need to get on to that and find out what happened. Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. I had the privilege of attending the Wreaths Across America, and I got to tell you, that was one of the more moving things that I've had the privilege to participate in, and the mayor did a great job representing us in that affair. And also, Christmas with the Cops seems like forever ago, I agree, but just thank you to all the staff and the first responders for putting that on and doing that. Favorite part is Santa Claus coming in a helicopter. I mean, you can't beat that. So, but it was a great time, and it's just a good community event. So I appreciate everybody's hard work in putting that on for the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. The city attorney's report?
No report, Mayor.
Okay, and again, if we could all please keep Commissioner Barnes in our thoughts and prayers as he's recovering after surgery. At this time, item number 11, we did change our agenda format a few meetings back so that if people were here who wanted to speak, did I miss something? Oh, I skipped the city manager's report. Sorry about that. Moving right along, let's back up to item number 9, which would be the city manager's report. Sorry, Mr. White.
If I could have Mr. Clayton T. come up front.
Thank you. I just looked right over it.
Mr. T. has been, years in management, has been so elected to be this year, this month, spoil the month for his and I spent performance for attending his dedication service. I will tell you, Mr. T. is a gentleman who typically wears a water break or a wake up break, the middle of the night, the middle of the cold. This is the man who tracks down. So he does a great job for the city. He's been here since 2000. He's also a retired military. So come with me and big round of applause.
Thank you so much and congratulations. And then I believe our city manager now has an infrastructure sales tax update for us.
Yes, ma'am. Just want to let all citizens know, the commission know, we have collected thus far around $1.5 million in sales tax revenue. The mayor and I participated this week with our attorney in closing on the $6,090,000 loan, which was approved sometime back. Of course, $2 million of that has already been spent. So we've been working with our engineering firm, Panhandle. Internal staff's been working, try to identify more roads. So just let the citizens know that they'll start seeing a lot more roads being paved in the upcoming weeks.
Thank you. And if I may just piggyback on your report there, I just wanted to clarify the $6 million loan that was taken out, as well as the $4 million loan which was taken out last year. Those are against the sales tax revenues which are coming in quarterly to the city and will be paid back only to that. The loan it sounds like a loan, but it's a loan against money that we have guaranteed that's coming into us. And our thought processes on that were, while we have all this equipment mobilized at today's interest rates, with everything moving, that this would be the most cost-effective way to get the most part of the city paved in the quickest amount of time, and also to really help residents with some of the problems that we're having. As you know, we've had great issues with our roads, with our pipes, with our manholes bubbling over during storms, and so thank goodness we're able to get that done, and we are very happy to see the sales tax at work. So very happy about that.
Mayor, if I may, just
sure,
real quick.
Jump in.
City Manager, what was the 1.5 is through, I just don't want to forget and ask you.
I want to say it's March.
Through March, okay.
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, City Attorney, did you have a report?
No,
I'm sorry.
ma'am, still
Okay.
not.
All right, now moving on to number 11 on the agenda. This is public commentary. You may speak on any item or any subject that you feel is pertinent to the good of the cause. It does not have to be on the agenda. As I move through the agenda, you will have an opportunity to speak on each of those items. So this will be something that's maybe not on tonight's agenda or possibly. Please try to keep your comments to the 3-minute limit to allow everyone a chance to speak. Yes, go ahead.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I would like you to picture this. You're in Southport, and you're coming south out of Southport, and you're approaching the Bailey Bridge. A number of years ago, even maybe sooner than that, just before you went over the Bailey Bridge, you saw a sign on the right-hand side that said Tree City, Lynn Haven, Tree City, USA. And it would put down the number of years that we were recognized as being a tree city. My last recollection was 13 years. My husband thinks it was higher than that. But that sign is no longer there. Somebody is thinking what I'm thinking. Not all, a lot of the trees are missing from Lynn Haven. And let me give you an example. I live on Michigan Avenue in between 11 and 12, and there was, just till recently, a beautiful parcel across the street from us, loaded with wonderful oaks, pine trees, and palm trees. Well, if you come by this evening, you'll notice there's 2 trees standing. Approximately 20 trees were cut down and assembled for logging purposes. We had logging trucks in front of our house. This is happening all over Lynn Haven. They're dicing and slicing trees to glory. I want you to take another vision in your house, again on Michigan, and you're on Michigan Avenue, and you head towards 17th Street. Just before 17th Street, on the left-hand side, there was a beautiful mini forest, almost a whole block long, of trees and trees and trees. A developer came along, purchased a portion of that lot, cleared 3 lots. Not one tree was left on 3 lots. Built 1 house in the middle of the 3 lots, so there's an empty lot on either side, dirty sand, no trees, it looks sad and desolate. Come to find out from another third person that a portion of that lot you can't build on. So now we have this stark naked piece of land that will never get built on, and the trees are all gone. I feel strongly about the builders and the contractors coming into Lynn Haven, finding all types of lots that have no homes on them, seeing now that we have decreased the size of a single-family building lot from 100 to 75 feet wide. Now you can build 2 homes on some lots where a 1 home stood before. You have smaller lots, smaller homes, therefore your garages and driveways are smaller. Once you have a smaller garage and a smaller driveway, you have less room to park cars. What do you do when you have 2 or 3 cars in a small area? You start parking on the lawn. This is an extremely tacky and undesirable look to the neighborhood. So therefore, I feel that all the slicing and dicing of Lynn Haven is getting out of control, and we need to contain it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Harris.
Arlene Harrison. I don't know. Along those lines of, I did wonder about code enforcement, and I know that City of Lynn Haven's been working very hard on code enforcement and trying to clean up the city and everything, but there are some, like, the very narrow, small lots, all of a sudden, they're jammed up with 5 or 6 cars and trucks across all over the lot, over the front of the lot, all over the lawn, parked across the street. I travel Michigan Avenue pretty often, and what she said was correct. And I've wondered the same thing, and I didn't research it like she did. But especially there's one on, that would be the corner of Michigan and 14th. It's like always messed up in that place. You know, there's always all kinds of trucks and cars and everything, and then is it the next block? I think it's the next block. Oh, yeah, just before 17th Street on the east side of the street of Michigan. There's another one of those little narrow lots with 1,000 cars on it. Then you cross, what's that? 389 is what actually I meant. And if you cross that, then there's a tractor trailer there, kind of halfway out into the street, that has a lot of times it's a tow truck or something, and a lot of times it has stuff on it that the tow truck doesn't fit completely on the median or the side thing, and and the end of the trailer just kind of sticks out into the street. If you have somebody coming the other way, it's a little dicey. And then we have a lot of lawn equipment. It just seems on the same street that when the lawn people stop, of course there's really no place for them to park. They park right in front. And sometimes through those places that already have a lot of, like a parking lot, every place, it's a little difficult to get through. Thank you.
Thank you. City manager and I have frequent discussions about code enforcement in the city. It is a priority with all of us, I believe, and so those kinds of reports help. So thank you.
Well, I know that code enforcement, you guys have really done a whole lot more. It's really looking better all over.
Thank you. And some of the issues with cars parking in yards or whatever, if you're not in a homeowners association or an area that restricts where you can park, our code pretty much covers if you can't have an untagged vehicle, that kind of thing, but there's very little you can do about how many cars someone can have unless you're in a homeowners association or that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes, sir.
About 2.5 minutes, if that long. There's something I want to share with you. Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, I am Zach Cutchins. I reside at 1115 Kentucky Avenue. I have been a resident of Lynn Haven since January the 5th, 1950, though that I am much, much older than that. This evening, Henry Thomas Hay, spelled H-E-Y, must be smiling. He was the architect who designed City Hall, as is Franklin Shores, former building inspector and my cousin who remodeled the building and designed the arches and doors and windows facing 9th Street. Hay was known for his Spanish style. He designed the first City Hall at Panama City that is standing today. If you've ever seen the beautiful post office at Mariana, that was his work also, and it's still in existence. And he is responsible for the arches at the avenues, or the entrance to College Point on East 12th Street, placed September 1926. How many of you are familiar with the arches on 12th Street? Well, Henry Hay, who designed this building, was the one responsible, and they were actually placed the first week of September of 1926. The City Hall, the building that we're speaking about, it looks better than I remember it in my 68 years as a resident of Lynn Haven. Somebody that's responsible for this has done very good work. Today, it is the best looking public building at at Bay County. I want to share a copy of the Lynn Haven newsletter announcing the appointment of the Lynn Haven City Manager, February the 7th, 1950. which also contains an early history of Lynn Haven. Also a program for the dedication of Highway 390, June the 16th, 1950, I attended. And finally, a narrative containing a condition in our hometown city employees have known about for over 47 years, beginning about the middle of the second page of the narrative that I'm going to pass out to you right now. Say Highway 390 was dedicated while I was just a little dog, and I started to ladies first. And they are getting an original of the mayor for her archives, and Judy maybe she will post it on the Commissioner Russell.
Thank you, sir.
A very good reproduction of what went on here also.
Thank you.
I know each of you have the difficult task of attempting to satisfy those requesting funds for personal projects or deviations to codes and restrictions, and others, such as I, Jack, who appreciate our community and the many necessary improvements. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Mr. Cutchins is also the author of a book, The History of St. Andrews. If you haven't seen it, I'm just beginning to read it, and he and the book are a treasure. Yes, sir. I'll come back to you.
My name is George Hines, 1603 Rhode Island Avenue. I had a problem with the asphalt on my road when they poured it. I came to the city manager and the mayor. I talked to him about it, and I'm here to give him kudos because 2 days later, James Fennis was in front of my front door. And he told me how much it was going to cost to take the road up because he took up from 19 to 16. And he just told me what it was going to cost. I said, okay. So he said some of it needs slag rock and some of it was put down wet, so it got waves in it. And they fixed it. So it's a smooth road now from 19 to 16. If you don't roll down, I just want to get a comment to you too. Thanks for doing it for me. Appreciate it.
It's very kind of you to come and say that publicly, Mr. Hines. We appreciate that. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I am one of the residents that Judy Tender talked about that is having an issue with the dogs,
Okay.
2 houses behind us.
Do you mind giving your name?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have to.
No, that's fine. My name's Courtney Stewart. Yes, ma'am. And I live on the corner of Missouri and West 3rd Street.
Missouri and?
West 3rd.
West 3rd.
Yes,
And your
ma'am.
name again was?
Courtney Stewart. Stewart.
Thank you, Courtney. Go
Yes,
ahead.
ma'am. Yes, so we've been having a lot of problems with this family in general. And I know just from speaking with animal control, they're doing their best. They're doing what they can. But it's extremely disappointing. I'm an animal lover as it is. These people don't take care of their animals, any of them, and they just keep getting more of them, which is kind of the issue. I have not officially, well, I guess it's officially, they say if you feed a cat that it's yours. But so I have officially adopted 2 of their cats that they have no longer been feeding. I got the cat spayed because it was not taken care of, and that was the 3rd litter that the cat had. So I've gotten that cat spayed and adopted out all the other kittens just because I can't have more than 3 cats. That's, yeah. But anyways, and then with that, they also had a black lab dog that kept getting out that was majorly emaciated. We have pictures. We have, it's covered in fleas. It had scars on it, old scars that had been healed up, and it's been bloody. It was bloody multiple times when I found it. It was very scared of humans in general. It took me about an hour to get to know the animal. And so we've finally, after about the 7th or 8th time that they've picked up this dog, the owners finally didn't come back and pay for it. So we found that dog a new loving home. We named her Dolly, and I get pictures from the Heartland Rescue Center that helped me adopt her out like crazy, which is great because it makes me happy. But now we are continuing to have issues with the puppies that they had. They left the puppies, and they didn't take care, or they didn't come get the mom when the puppies still needed to be weaned. So they're not taking care of it. all of this to be said, we have pictures, videos. The puppy was recently killed in the backyard, and that scares me walking my dog down the street because both of their dogs have gotten out. So I'm sure their puppies can get out as well. All this to say, looking in the laws and everything that I've looked into in Lynn Haven, we do not have any laws saying that you can take away a dog, whether it is after how many times animal control has been called. I understand that, all of that. You have to go through the court costs, from what I've been heard, of taking away somebody's animal rights by hiring a lawyer, which I know that's extremely extreme, but it's happened on multiple occasions. It's not like it was once they left their dog out in the rain. So I would like to work on something, if we could, to find something, some way that we could actually protect the animals in our city, because I love animals and they can't speak up, so why not? So that is it. Thank you.
I appreciate very much, Courtney, your courage in coming forward and bringing this issue to our attention. And our city manager, Mr. White, has the day-to-day operations of the city and directs the employees as to their day-to-day responsibilities. But I do know there are animal cruelty laws, and so I would like, with the permission of the rest of the commission, I would like to ask, and I'm sure Mr. White's already ahead of me on this, but to direct him to start an investigation into this property and to find out if there's animal cruelty taking place there, which it obviously is from what you've said, and let's see what we can do. And if we don't have an ordinance in place to back it up, then perhaps we need at the next workshop to start looking at one. So.
Yes, ma'am. I would appreciate that, and I do also appreciate all of Commissioner Tinder, and Mr. White has been working with Commissioner Tinder as well, and
Obviously.
I appreciate them helping. They have been helping. There's just nothing they can do past that certain point. So.
And I appreciate you bringing it to the commission, because obviously the commissioners and we can't discuss things outside of this public purview, so this brings it to all of our attention, and now we can all be aware of it. So thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Alan. I live off of Missouri as well. I'm actually the homeowner that's been calling a lot on these dogs. And
I'm sorry, you're the homeowner who has called, or you're the
that has called.
That has called about.
I'm not the owner of the dogs.
Got
I'm
ya.
just yeah.
Okay, got you.
The reason why I want to speak on top of what Courtney has said, just to back up her claims, they are true. It's not only just myself. I've also talked to other residents of Lynn Haven that have run into this issue. Each time I've called, again, like what she said and what y'all have stated, there's no ordinance against it. But the issue with the puppies, they're very malnourished. The reason why they were killing each other is because it's termed siblicide, I believe is what it's called, and it's when they're competing for food. They're to the point where their stomachs are swollen, or their abdomen, I'm sorry, it's not stomach. They lack a protein that retains water in the blood vessel, and so it dumps into the body when there's lack of food. So the puppies are probably, it's possibly a little too late for them, but like Courtney has stated, they keep buying or obtaining more pets, and it's just a continual issue. It's really bad when you wake up and hear the sound of 4 dogs eating on another one. So it's not a good thing to wake up to in the morning. But yeah, that's all I had to say about it, just to back up the claims. So.
We appreciate your courage in coming forward, and because animals can't speak for themselves, and we need to take care of this immediately to whatever extent we can.
Of this earth, so.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have a matter to discuss? Mr. Robitaille? Thank you so much.
Mr. Walker shared with you from the Lynn Haven Redevelopment Plan of 217, an item. Access Road, Old Depot, $8,130,000. That's a piece of change, Jack. Anyway, that item caused considerable difficulties at our last planning meeting. When I'm talking considerable here, I'm talking personal confrontation. I'm talking about swearing in front of people's wives. I'm talking almost getting to the physical point, to the point there. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed by that activity. I realize now that this has been taken care of by establishing a couple fine police officers there, but that bothers me a lot. That bothers me a lot that I can't go to a public meeting without a cop holding my hand. But I don't know how else to address it. But I can offer a solution. This gentleman in question has long confused me as to just what his role is. Is he a city employee or isn't he a city employee? Is he a whatever? I mean, so my question is, I would like you to find out if he's a city employee, and based on lack of conduct becoming a Lynn Haven employee, that you fire him. And then, I even go a step farther. I would like this commission to send him a letter, signed by each of you, saying that he's no longer welcome. He's no longer welcome at our public meetings based on his past activity. Now, our attorney's making all kinds of faces there, but the trouble is, you're not saying you're banning him from, but he's no longer welcome. I think that'd be appropriate. But another thing that happened at that meeting, again secondhand, was our city planner, who took it upon himself a role that I find most unusual. The chairman of the commission, planning board, it was a 3-3 tie, whatever, and some of the members said, well, I want to take a walk over there. I want to go over there at that fuel depot. I want to see what's going on over there. I want to see this. I think several of them did that. And so it was suggested, one of the members, chairman, whatever, said, well, let's table this. To which our city planner pointed at them and said, you can't do this. You can't do that. You can't table a motion. I would like you to speak with her and have her understand her role there. Have her understand what her role is. She's not there to direct. She's simply there to provide information. Going a little farther, passing this unsavory activity aside, you know what? I read the paper. Lynn Haven didn't get one damn dime. Not one damn dime, folks, from the Triumph money. Not one dime. Our mayor, she stuck in, went for a shot for $1.8 million. But the point is, who among you lobbied? Who among you made a phone call? Who among you took somebody else to lunch? Did you? You did.
Mr. Robitaille, if you will, keep your Robert's rules to me.
I know.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
and if you can wind it
but
up,
you see
we're
the
close.
point here. You see the point here. Not one dime. Not one dime. To that end, I always have a solution. I would like this commission to invite to this. This is our first time in the history of Lynn Haven. Invite to this commission Commissioner Ham. You all know Commissioner Ham? You ever hear of him? He's the county commissioner for District 1. He's our man. And I'd like you to have him come here. And I really would, not to crucify him, but to him to tell the people of Lynn Haven what happened there. What happened there? We didn't, not one time. And you know what's funny to me? It's not as if we don't need the money. Y'all come over there, we've been flushing our toilets into our yards for 18 years.
Mr. Robitaille, you can bring it to a close now.
There's a lot of things that we could use money for. And Eastern must have done some lobbying. I don't think they missed an inch. I think they even had Haney training their employees. I don't know what else more they could possibly give them. And that's a private industry. That's an industry that just got the largest contract in its history. What in the world are we, the public, giving them money for? And of course, there's always.
Mr. Robitaille, in greatest respect and deference to you, your time is up, my dear.
But I appreciate it, but you get the point.
I do get the point.
You get the point. That we're not, the people of Lynn Haven are not getting appropriate attention.
Are there any other comments from the public?
Mayor, could I respond to that real quick?
Commissioner Russell would like to respond.
Mr. Robiton, just so you know, no money from the Triumph Fund has been issued yet. What was done was what the county is going to recommend the Triumph Board to spend the money on. So the Triumph Board makes the final decision. So we're not done lobbying, trying to get the money from the Triumph Board. I can assure you your commission is going to continue to push to get the money. The Bay County Commission, in my opinion, made a mistake. But it's not the final decision. The Triumph Board is the one that makes that final decision. And I know the mayor has made efforts. I know I've made efforts. I haven't, obviously I can't talk to the other commissioners to find out what they have. But we're going to continue to try to get that money because the money that is going to be spent on that sports park is going to better the entire city if we can get it. And I know every one of us commissioners want that to happen. So, just to let you know, we are working hard for you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Russell. Does anyone else have a comment? We're still in the public commentary section of the meeting. And please, out of respect to everyone, please try to keep your comments at 3 minutes so I don't have to ask you to stop. Okay, thank you. Mr. Walker? Thank you so much.
Rich Walker, 11 to 6 Michigan Avenue. 2 points. Tree City is a good example. I've noticed in the park where the soldier is standing there facing north, we have an irrigation problem there. Irrigation, water. It has killed a couple of the trees. They removed the trees, palms, and they've just trimmed the palms. But we need to take care of the storm water there, get it off of there so we don't kill any more. The city just went and removed the palm tree from next to the sago palm next to the palm tree in front of City Hall. They took that and they put it on private property. And it should have gone in where the palm that died there. It can't go there because it will die also. However, where they planted it, it is dead. And now I have to have it removed. So my point is this. I'd like to see that statue area take a good look at stormwater runoff because it just sits there and it's killing all the plants. And just for a little information, second point, he mentioned the Triumph funds. This commission here made a mistake. They told the United States and Bay County that the BP spill did not affect them. Therefore, that's why you're getting no money. Also, another thing is you've been awarded $17.1 million for the restore funds for your 950-acre park. So you got to weigh these things out. You're getting something here. You told them you didn't need anything, and they're just taking you for your word. Thank you, and I applaud you for your representation going there and doing that. That's what you should be doing.
Thank you. Are there other comments from the public? Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Just real quick, since I live on Missouri, can we please not put another stop sign on 5th Street? Please, I would love that. That would be great.
You're saying not to put one there? So there's a differing opinion.
There
okay?
is a differing opinion.
Okay.
Just real quick. I have a Mustang. I still go the speed limit. It's not that hard. It's just people's impulse control. That shouldn't make me have to stop again. I understand, and those kids are really good kids too, and they know not to play in the road as well. I know Andrew from the Lynn School. So, they're good kids, and the rest of us down Missouri would not like that.
Duly noted, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move along then to item 12, which is the consent, and thank you for everyone who participated. The consent agenda is item number 12. This is the approval of the minutes from the December 12th regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve? Come on, gentlemen.
Second.
Thank you. And there's a motion, there's a second. Is there any discussion of the consent agenda? Excuse me, is there a discussion of the former minutes? Wow. Any discussion of the previous minutes by anyone from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. Moving on to old business, this will be item 13. Pardon me one moment.
No, ma'am.
Okay. We will not read the ordinance again since we read it during the public hearing. So this second reading of ordinance number 1048 is requesting a small-scale land use map amendment from Marina Island LLC, and action is required on this item. Is there a motion? There is no motion. I'll ask for it one more time. Is there a motion to take action on the small-scale land use map amendment? There appears to be none, and so the item would fail at this time because of lack of a motion on the floor. Is there a motion for further discussion or tabling or anything to go forward?
I'll make a motion for discussion.
I guess what I'm asking for is, what I'm asking from the commission, would there be any type of, would you want to have any kind of public hearing? Would you want to carry this to another meeting with more information, or are you just letting, you want to let it die? That's certainly your prerogative. I'm just asking.
I think the silence of the commission answers that question for yourself.
I think it does. And so item number 13 dies for lack of a motion. So moving on to item number 14, which is the second reading of ordinance number 1049, providing the vacation and abandonment for 2 right-of-ways, Kentucky Avenue right-of-way south of the 100-foot railroad, and 11th Street right-of-way west of Tennessee Avenue. Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval. Second.
So there was a motion for approval and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board? Any discussion from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. Item number 15 is discussion and approval for the Audit Committee's workshop date to review the RFQ bid documents for auditing services. Mr. White, do you have any comments about this item?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like for you to look at your calendars, possibly for February 27th, to have a workshop. We have a lot coming up the next 2 meetings, and that'll be the last meeting in February. This action item is not on the hot seat, so we got a little time with it.
So this is the regularly scheduled second meeting of the month. So does anyone have objection to that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Could someone make a motion to that effect then?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Mr. White, please call the roll.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So there will be a workshop on February 27th, which is the last meeting of the month in February, and that will probably happen usually an hour before the regularly scheduled meeting. So if the public wants to be present, probably around 5 o'clock is when that will start. That will be advertised, of course. But moving on to new business, item number 16, discussion and possible approval to give the city manager authority to negotiate the acquisition of property 813 Pennsylvania Avenue. City manager, you have a report on this item.
Yes, ma'am. As you well know, we have purchased the property next to it already. This is the piece of property on the corner. As the city of Lynn Haven continues to grow, it's my envision that the city will need more area and space, possibly for some more facilities later. What I'm asking here is, this property is in foreclosure. It was a reverse mortgage. There's quite a bit, there's $200,000 owed on this property. We have already done appraisal. I've been working with Rob and Mr. Commander on some foreclosure and possible bidding on this piece of property. And Rob, would you like to weigh in on that?
No, we think there's going to be a couple of opportunities to get involved in the ultimate disposition of the property, and I think that's what the city manager is looking for, some authority to work through those points.
Just where we can have, I'm looking for the opportunity to work with them to try to secure this property for the city. When it's coming available, I do not know, and it may come at a point that I cannot get to everyone to get a decision from this board.
So Mayor, just so.
Commissioner Friend, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Commissioner Tender, okay. Excuse me. Just so I'm clear, you want to go ahead and negotiate it all the way through and thus set like a limit or something like we did in the past, or you just want to, okay. So you don't want to go and negotiate and come back for final approval?
Yes,
You
sir.
want some
But-
type of guideline?
Yes, sir, I need some kind of guidance because I think this piece of property will be very advantageous to the city.
What did you say it was appraised at? I apologize.
135. And I do know that it's I think being 200,000 thereabout is old to HUD.
And then just one last question. Is it still suitable for rental? I mean, if we were to.
Yes, we think it is.
Okay.
Commissioner Tender, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Friend just answered my question. It was appraised at $135,000. You want to purchase it at $200,000? Am I understanding?
No,
that?
ma'am.
Okay, what's the $200,000?
I'm just letting you know all the information. The 200,000 is what is left on the reverse mortgage from the previous owner that passed away. I do not know what the home is going to go for. I'm looking for some insight. Do you want to stick around the 135 and give me authority to move forward when this property comes available, or do you want something less or more than that?
If I may, we've done some research on, there was a reverse mortgage on the property. We actually looked to see if we could contact the heirs and purchase it from them, but there's too many and they have too many brothers and sisters and it would be too difficult to do that. And so the property's in the process of being foreclosed. Obviously, there's a couple of opportunities that goes through foreclosure, and there's a foreclosure auction. There's an opportunity to try to get it before foreclosure by negotiating with the bank. And then once it goes into foreclosure, if it gets foreclosed and there's an auction and the city was not able to acquire the property at that point, there's still an opportunity through HUD. HUD owns the mortgage and they have to sell it, and they have a whole process of how, who gets priority and how that whole sale goes. And so if the commission, I think because there's lots of different opportunities here, I think the city manager is looking for authority at some point, whatever y'all are comfortable with, to authorize him to acquire the property. Yeah, I think that, so wherever that is in the process, I think that would be the authorization. If you all want to go forward with that, if you want to bring it back, it's up to you guys.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I may say?
Yes, please go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize him to purchase the property as long as it's not over $150,000. And if it's over that, I think we need to come back to the commission and, discuss it.
So there's been
I'll
a
second.
motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Any comments or discussion from the public before we go forward? Yes, sir.
Since you just announced the top price, I think you set the price.
Any other comments?
That's a different approach.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions?
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
The appraised value is 135. They owe $200,000 on it. Just for the sake of argument, why wouldn't you consider going back at 115, 110? Because if it does go to auction, who in the world is going to spend $135 for it, and we buy it at auction? I mean, that's just my recommendation. I mean, I got no problem agreeing to the 150, but that would be my guideline. My suggestion is to try to get it at a lower price, and it doesn't, then let it go to auction, and we'll buy it at auction.
And
Well-
that's what I'm asking for, is either through the foreclosure or through auction.
Okay.
Either or, where we can secure it.
And I think what the city manager is asking us for is, does he have authorization to negotiate at the appraised value, or do we want to give him a lower value than that? Not necessarily a top value. I believe that's what you're asking us for. Is that? And so, feel free if you want to go forward with the motion you made, or if you want to rescind it, amend it, continue the discussion.
Mayor, just for sake of
Yes.
clarity, as I understood the motion, it was to approve the city manager to negotiate up to $150,000. So that leaves him that negotiating guideline.
Yeah, I would expect you would negotiate for the lowest price.
One more question, Mayor. I'm assuming we've got the money in the budget to buy it?
We have the money in reserves.
In
Yes,
reserves?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board? There's a motion and a second, and we had comment from the public. Any other public comment? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Stands approved. Then moving to item number 17, which is resolution number 2018-01-708. This is the approval and adoption of the wastewater collection facilities plan and the financial plan. Is there a motion? We won't read the resolution again because we've already read it. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion for approval and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board? Any further discussion or questions from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
No.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Moving on to, and that does stand approved. Item number 18, the first reading of ordinance number 1050, the small-scale future land use map amendment. This is 6620 House of Seafood Drive, and this is read by title only.
Ordinance number 1050, an ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida statutes of a land use change from commercial to mixed use for an approximate 1.692 acres of property located at 6220 House of Seafood Drive in the city of Lynn Haven, Bay County, Florida. Repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion about this ordinance? From the board, excuse me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I would like to just clarify. We would be going from commercial down to mixed use, which is basically the same thing. I mean, you can't put any commercial on it if it's mixed use?
You can put certain items, which the planner mentioned earlier in her speech, it's just not zoned all commercial, so they can have residential mixed in with it. You want to help her, Amanda?
Mixed use allows for residential as well as certain types of commercial. Commercial does not allow for single-family homes. Mixed use does, but the commercial that it allows is less intense than with regular commercial, so you can't have shopping centres and things like that.
Thank you. And where's this property at exactly? Is it across Bailey
Across the
Bridge?
Bailey Bridge on the right where the House of Seafood used to sit.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, and that's a first reading which required no action. Are there any further discussion of this item from the public? Okay, that brings us to the end, item number 19. Thank you so much for a very productive meeting, and thank you all for being here, and the meeting is now adjourned.